Hello, folks. I'm going to talk to you about a few controversial subjects. I'm going to say things that are considered taboo, things that may make people angry. I'm going to be talking about the trans community, minor transitions, and the LGBTQ community in general. I'm going to say things that are not allowed to be said without being labeled horrible names. Names like transphobic, homophobic, bigot, fascist. None of these names are true for the vast majority of people who view this as I do, as they do not come from a place of hate. These are these names are a tool to dehumanize a person, so they are considered so evil that no matter how valid their position is, it's easily dismissible. And in complete honesty, I tried doing this off the cuff without writing, and it just didn't come out right. I'll start with the trans community. I want to say openly that trans people deserve no less respect than anyone else. They should not be threatened, hurt, or have hatred thrown towards them for simply existing. But remember, that does not mean that bad ideas should not be challenged, bad science should not be addressed, and we simply have to accept everything said by the community as truth. Conservatives get a lot of hate because they are not willing to deny reality for the sake of an individual's feelings about themselves, especially when it comes to the obvious and observable. This notion that affirmation of a person from the community comes before the masses is fundamentally wrong. You cannot force someone to do what you want them to do, see the way you want them to see you, simply because it'll make you feel better. Those in the community, mainly advocates, are inflicting their will upon those who disagree under threat of societal reprisal, in some cases, government reprisal. This, by definition, is a form of tyranny. I think a perfect example is J.K. Rowling, where even though she has been a huge advocate for the LGBTQ community, uh, there's great hate towards her because she simply stated that trans females are not biological females. Her supporters have been harassed. People playing games based on her works have been harassed. That's not justified. That's not morally right. As you can see, I'm an obese, balding man. Reality shows you that I do not look like typical men that are desired by society. People like Brad Pitt, Adam Levine, or whomever is popular these days. It'll be quickly argued by some that uh, that some may find me attractive and beauty is subjective. I, in turn, will quickly point out that Danny DeVito is not and has never been a sex symbol. There is a majority level of agreement to what is considered attractive to society, so beauty is by no means completely subjective. Like Danny, I cannot force you to see me like how I'd like to be seen, nor would I try to force you to find me attractive. In truth, even if I could, I'd be forcing you to say one thing while you are thinking another. It would be a lie. You would know it's a lie. I would know it's a lie. This would help no one. Real affirmation comes from within. With it comes strength. It does not come from forcing another to say what you want them to say and do what you want them to do under threat of harm from society. I'm sure most conservatives would accept pronouns like he, she, and one other that would be universal that all others could be encompassed in. That is not what is happening here. because this is really about forcing others to acknowledge you, and it's being taken too far. This is not being dressed reasonably. Instead, you can be any gender you make up, making no gender have meaning other than those directly tied to biological sex. And this ties back to the trans community. Uh, the notion that a trans woman is a real woman is a pitfall. Believing yourself to be something doesn't make it so. Reality is reality no matter what. I could say that I'm a real millionaire or a real attractive prince, but objective reality would quickly prove otherwise, and no one would defend me. This, once again, is not hateful. There's no biological reproducible test that actually shows a person is trans. There's no blood work that can be done, MRI, CT, X-ray, or any other test. The closest they have come to in studies of the human brain that supposedly show that trans people have structures more like the sex that they feel they are, and that's the closest that they've gotten. But I've read those studies, and in truth, they are far from conclusive or reproducible with any real level of accuracy. They're even trying to get AI to do it because AI is often more accurate at detecting these things. Even then, those numbers are not there, at least not yet. The trans community and their activists are asking for their feelings to be acknowledged. But what about the people you're forcing to reject multiple forms of truth? The truth that biologically you are not what you feel you are. That if I'm not interested in dating you, I'm a horrible person, a transphobe. Denying trans females have an overwhelming advantage in women's sports that threatens the erasure of women in their own domain. These are undeniable truths that are occurring every day. We are told we were told that after a year or two of hormone therapy, that the male body is so diminished in capacity that it is equal to the female body. This is untrue, and we all know it. The trans female still has increased grip strength. They have superior muscle fiber density, bone density, different bone structuring, allowing for more explosive movements, and lung capacity, just to name a few. In competitive sports, there's something called blood packing that allows more oxygen to be pushed through the system. It's a form of doping, and it gives increased stamina. Trans females have this built in over their biological female counterparts. Hormones do not decrease lung or heart capacity. This allows for greater stamina and greater explosiveness from the muscles. Yet, once again, we are being told to deny this reality. From people like the trans female doctor, and I honestly can't remember what her degree was in, who said that there's no competitive advantage for trans females. Ironically enough, she is also a gold medal winner in cycling now after competing in the female division. You ask conservatives to accept their truth while denying their feelings and actual truth. If it were not truth, then there would be a very simple explanation for how such a small subset of society who has an even smaller number competing in sports overwhelmingly dominates them. How these middle of the pack, at best, male competitors so often are at the top of the female competition pool. You want to know why people are not just embracing the trans community? First thing you need to do is stop dehumanizing those who disagree and actually listen to their points. If it's not acceptable to dehumanize trans people and dismiss them, Why is it okay to do it to conservatives when their only position is, hey, what you're saying is not factually correct, and you cannot force me to do what you want? Now I'm going to move on to trans youth transitioning. I honestly thought this would be common sense. We do not have the science to back up what we are doing to these children. The argument that if you start blockers before puberty and decide to stop them at ages of 12, 13, 14 years old, the body will just spring back like uh, with its puberty, like no intervention ever took place. It's a lie. Those hormones can be dangerous. Later in life, they've been known to cause sexual dysfunction issues. Some of these medications are actually used in chemical castration for men, specifically the P words. Those hormones, uh, uh, under any normal circumstances, if you went to a doctor and asked them to start a treatment on your child with potential harmful side effects with no actual evidence of physical illness, you would be laughed out of the room, or the doctor would lose their license to practice medicine. Trans advocates say that to not give care, affirming care, is more dangerous, that they are killing children. No. Once again, this is an attempt to give a knee-jerk emotional reaction designed to override your better judgment. We never address that maybe the child is honestly confused, gay, or that boys who like feminine things and women like typically masculine things. This has always occurred throughout history. And for the females, there's been a specific word for that, tomboy. But that tomboy is still 100% a female. We also do not take into account the influence of teachers who push their ideology on students. I know many will say that this is not happening, but come on. There are too many examples of teachers on TikTok bragging about it to say that it does not exist or it's not a growing problem. Every day, these type of teachers feel more emboldened to openly admit these things. So imagine what influence is happening in the classroom behind closed doors. We have the internet to blame. We have people like Dylan, and I'm sorry, I cannot honestly remember her last name, blowing up almost overnight. No one had heard of this person until she started her transition process. And now we have Drew Barrymore on her knees in front of Dylan praising this person. Interviews with the president, and an insane amount of views and coverage. With that comes money. There is an incentive for children now to come out as trans or LGBTQ because of the attention. In a society where we now find worth in notoriety instead of actual positive actions, these kids will be pushed forth to do things that they have no real understanding what the consequences are. To give you an example of the difference in society and how much notoriety and adulation is top priority for kids these days, all we have to do is look back 25 years to now. 25 years ago, if you asked a kid or a teenager what they wanted to be, they would say things like firefighter, astronaut, doctor, lawyer, president. Things that are good for society, that help others. Do you know what the top three are now? Rapper, influencer, and streamer. All three revolve around notoriety and adulation. Still, do not see the conservative perspective having validity at this point. Give you another example. With all the horrible mass shootings, did you ever stop to notice that for a while there won't be one? Then one happens. After that, a string, 3, 4, 5 of them will quickly happen within weeks. You don't find that odd? It's not the guns doing it. The gun is simply the tool used, the method. It's the notoriety gained in the media. One disgruntled person does something horrible. Another kid sees the attention, decides to replicate it because even infamy as a form of notoriety is more acceptable than being unknown to these kids. That is the state of our society. So, using simple common sense, if they are willing to take lives just so people know their names, what do you think they would do given the opportunity to be praised, loved by society with minimal action, just by simply coming out, even if it's untrue? We are heading for an epidemic of false trans children who will transition to and regret it because there is no proof that they are not trans. It has already started. Stories are coming out almost daily. So, no, conservatives are not trying to kill your children by stopping the state from being able to give your child hormone blockers against the parent's will. They are not evil for giving a child a chance to grow up and truly find themselves, or stopping double mastectomies on 14, 15, 16-year-old girls. Advocates will deny once again that that is happening, but there are far too many stories to try to gaslight this. They're all over the news, they're all over TikTok, they're undeniable at this point. It is occurring. Moving on, as for the LGBTQ community, I have a controversial idea. Let us have gay and trans representation on television. They exist. There's nothing wrong with trans and gay people existing. Here's where the controversial part comes. Just like with the erasure of classical beloved characters by companies like Disney, gay and trans representation in movies, and especially on television, we're overcompensating with it. For so many years, these people have been stereotypes or underrepresented. So instead of simply including them in the media, they swung the pendulum in the other direction. Now there is overrepresentation to the point where it's noticeably not natural, especially based on Western population numbers within these communities. On top of that, we have the directors, writers, and actors constantly beating their chest and bragging about it. The problem with this is once people know that there's an ideology in play and the content suffers, there's immediate pushback. When something is unnaturally done, shoehorned in, we all have that instant reaction of, why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense. What you have to do is just let it be a natural process. Create good trans and gay characters in proper proportions to Western society, where the shows are made and whom the main audience is, and then say nothing. Do not promote it. Do not tout it in interviews. Just write good content for them. Then do nothing. It's insidious because over a fairly short time, we will just accept it because it's natural. People will not feel that they're being preached to, attacked. Those trans and gay characters are just everyday people living a normal life, just like the majority of society that's not LGBTQ. One final thought about the LGBTQ community: stop coming out all the time. 20, 30 years ago, it was courageous because it was taboo. Ellen did so and lost everything. She bet it all not only on coming out, but doing so on TV. Now, it's nowhere near that level of taboo. There is nowhere near that level of risk. Coming out is a Tuesday. Just another day. It's like if I went to the media and told them I was straight. No one would care. You live your life the way you want to live it. Just be a good artist at whatever you do and be a good person. Just that simple. I don't think that's asking too much. On a personal note, I'm going to speak a little truth about myself. For such a marginalized people, the gay community, trans community, they have an insane amount of influence and speaking power. If one of you gets in trouble, not only does the gay and trans community rally behind you, but liberals do as well. They will help you with jail funds, help you after a disaster. There are resources dedicated just for you. There is always a light at the end of the tunnel. For me, no. As what people would call a white cis straight male, I get no help. I've been sick for a very long time. Just a few weeks ago, I couldn't even get out of bed for, not even weeks ago, not even 2 weeks ago. I couldn't even get out of bed. I was in an insane amount of pain, throwing up due to my gastroparesis. It was excruciating. Every time I would try to move or stand up, my heart rate would jump from an average, an average 150 to 170 plus beats per minute. And it wound up costing me a lot of money I do not have because I had to go with more expensive routes of doing things because I could not handle doing them myself. And to be honest, I'm going to be homeless here very shortly. I don't really have family to turn to. And in all my years of dealing with this, and it constantly getting worse, no one's ever advocated for me. There's no special help for me. Actually, since I'm a single male, I'm going to be put at the end of the line for cheap housing. Not that I could actually afford that even right now because I'm so far in debt. There's no one coming to save me. I will be out in the cold, or at best in a homeless shelter. And that's if they have room. So remember, even though you are a disenfranchised small community, there are certain privileges and assets that most straight, cis, white males do not have. Society is going to discard me. For you, they will do anything. So count your blessings because you're not in as bad a position as you think you are. There are countless far worse. You have to acknowledge that. So thank you if you reached the end of this, and thank you for listening, for letting me get this off my chest. I wish nothing but love and happiness to everyone. Doesn't matter if you're white, black, gay, straight, trans, or anything else. You deserve love, security, and happiness. Let us find unity through open dialogue. No more name calling. First step is to actually listen and understand one another. Only then can we heal. This may be the last time I get to do something like this for a while, so if you did not hear from me, just know I will keep fighting and make a comeback. It may take a while, though. Love and best wishes to all.